It might be that you're not even really aware that you're scared of men. It could also be that you love men and at the same time are kind of scared of them. I have to preface this by saying this is from mostly from a female perspective and probably also from a straight female perspective. But I have heard um, men also mention some of these signs when they were around other men. So I am actually curious how universal this is, whether you recognize this when you are a man attracted to men, when you are a man attracted to women, when you are a woman attracted to women, because of course then you can also still be a little bit scared of men. Um, so we are just going to go through the signs, and please let's just start a conversation in the comments, because I'm so curious, and I definitely want to learn how your perspective might differ, or how the feelings might differ. But this is from probably a straight women's perspective, um, that you might be scared of men without really realizing it, because I I had, when I grew up, I had a pretty good relationship with my dad. I adored him. I had put him on a pedestal. And it wasn't until much later, when I was really struggling in my 20s with OCD and generalized anxiety and a depression, that I started kind of unpacking our relationship and realizing, oh, wait, there may be things about our relationship that actually aren't very healthy. And it may have been that I was actually also really scared of him at the same time. So I loved men. Like, I loved talking to guys. I loved hearing their thoughts and their insecurities, and like I was really interested always in boys and in men, and how um, yeah, how they thought and how they were. Um, so I wasn't really aware that I was also scared of men, and it wasn't until much later that I kind of realized that, because it just felt so normal and it felt so familiar, you know. And it, when I met Arya, my now husband, I was 20, and he was so different from my father. He was so kind and patient and gentle and open, and um, that was just such a perspective shift, because I started realizing all these signs that we are going to talk about that I actually had with men up till then. So the first, for instance, the first sign is that you are attracted to men you feel tension with. Um, because that just feels familiar. I always tended to be attracted, even just in friendships or talking to guys, not even necessarily sexually, um, attracted to guys who I felt a certain tension with. So it wasn't completely relaxed. It wasn't free flowing. It wasn't um yeah, there was always something. I'm not even sure if tension is the right word. It's maybe just a literal translation from the Dutch word spanning. Um, but it wasn't just that I could just completely, relax in their presence. And those were the ones that kind of intrigued me the most. And that was because I had daddy issues. I all of a sudden see Barney Stinson from How I Met Your Mother. Daddy issues. Definitely had them. Um, I'm glad we're, by the way, living in a time where we're actually unpacking those daddy issues and healing them, because as I think about it now, it's I think it's so long since I've seen How I Met Your Mother, but I think Barney Stinson was actually picking up women, or picking out women that had daddy issues, and that, of course, is not okay. So I'm happy we're in a different time now, and we're healing, and we're dealing with these daddy issues on a very deep level, so that we're healthy um, women who marry healthy men or build healthy relationships. Anyway, that was a sidetrack. Um, but yeah, so the first sign is that you are attracted to men you feel tension with. The ones you feel tension with, you are more attracted to usually than the ones you feel completely relaxed with. So that sounds weird, right? These are 5 signs you're scared of men, and yet you are attracted more to the ones you feel more tension with. But this is how our fear brain can work, that you seek out the threat so that you can see whether it's a threat and whether you can handle it. So it's not always that you only run away from threats. It can be that you feel like you've been trained in a way subconsciously for this tension or for this kind of dynamic, and you're just kind of intrigued by this person to see if you can keep standing, which sounds crazy. Maybe let me know if that sounds crazy. But yeah, it in a way it does make sense that your fear brain is like, okay, can I handle this, and is going to seek that out, as opposed to when you're in a healthy relationship with somebody who is completely open and loving. That is just completely unknown territory for your fear brain, and that's when it will want to run away, because it's like, I don't know what to do with this. I have no idea how to be safe in this situation. I don't know when anything is coming, if anything is coming, how that would look, how I would react to it. Whereas the men you feel some sort of tension with in your body, you probably are like, oh, this is familiar in a way. Let's just see if this is indeed the same way. You're trained for it in a way. You're trained for that was one of the weird realizations that I had, that I was trained for a certain dynamic because I had that so much, and yeah, you then tend to seek out that dynamic to see, because it feels familiar, but also to see if you can handle that. The second sign is you are scared to be yourself, assuming they will reject and criticize you. This also took so long for me to realize, that around men that I was scared of, I was not myself at all. I would just completely adapt into the version I thought they would want me to be. I thought I had to be the version that was attractive, not just sexually, but just fun to be around or good to be around, not looking at my own needs at all. So not being myself, and being very self-conscious of what I was doing and whether that, that was okay with them, giving them a lot of power. Because I was assuming that they would reject and criticize me sooner or later. So I was just kind of bracing myself for that, and kind of trying to prevent that. And if I would be able to prevent that, that would help me in a way, or give me something. Ugh, so happy I'm out of all of that. I have that a lot when I'm talking in these videos. I'm like, oh, I'm so happy. I'm like in a completely different world now, and all I want is for you to also have this feeling in a couple of months or however long, that you're like, oh man, I'm so happy that I'm now in a completely different world. This is so far behind me. I can imagine it, but it also kind of feels like a different person in a way. The third sign is that you make yourself smaller and weaker not to set them off. I didn't realize that I was always scanning whether men would become angry, because I had the experience that the man in my life, my father, could get angry out of nowhere without any real reason. My mother didn't do that. And so I wasn't scared of angry women. If you have an angry mother, you might do that with women, be very scared of them being angry, becoming angry. But I was always looking for signs that men would get angry. And so I would make myself smaller and weaker so that they would feel stronger and in control, just to not set them off. Interesting, huh? The fourth sign is that you are always looking for clues, what they are thinking or feeling, to anticipate an outburst and try to prevent. So this is that scanning, that hypervigilance. You're always looking for the smallest cues, and you do this without being conscious of it. You are looking at their face, at their body language, just to see what they are thinking or feeling. And I have had this in relationships, in a relationship prior to my husband, and it was just it was very, it was, in a way, it felt fulfilling in a weird way, but it was also very tiring because I didn't pay attention to myself and my own needs at all. I was just focused on not making sure that he was okay. And that's taking a lot of energy. And then the fifth is you feel like you have to adjust and adapt to their vision of you. So when you meet somebody new, you kind of adapt into the version that you've learned that you should be to be well liked and accepted. And it's not just, I think, daddy issues, it's also society issues, because society also tells women, now less than 10 years ago, but when I grew up, and I'm not sure how old you are, but maybe when you grew up too, there was such different messaging around women. You know, it was a pretty mean time, the late 90s, beginning of the 2000s. Um, Very superficially focused what women should look like, and you shouldn't be too much, and you shouldn't be too loud, and yeah, be quiet and sit pretty or something. I think that's a saying. Um, and that was still, when I grew up, kind of the messaging that you got. So I realized that when I met a men, a guy, any men, um, I would adapt into that version. Like, be quiet, uh, be humble, say the right thing, don't be too loud, don't be too abrasive, don't be too manly, don't be all kinds of things. And then when I got to know a guy, I would figure out subconsciously, not being aware of it, um, what their vision of me was, and then I would adapt into that. And this it is very tiring, but it's also just a recipe for disaster, because you can't keep that up for the rest of your life. And you just kind of lose yourself completely and become very unhappy with that. So yeah, when I started realizing that I actually was scared of men, even though I always thought that I loved talking to men, I loved being around them. It was just all these feelings, all these things, all these signs were just so normal for me that I didn't even really notice them happening. Very interesting. And then I started healing that, and that helped a lot. And then I started putting up boundaries towards men, and now I love being around men who are just kind and gentle and patient, and I don't have that. It was almost like I got hooked into energy, like hooked into their energy, and I don't have that anymore. I'm much more, how do you say that, much more on my own, standing in my own space, in my own energy, I guess. So even if a man would have the tendency to become angry or have outbursts, that doesn't affect me pretty much at all. I wanted to say at all, but I can't guarantee black and whiteness. So I'm not sure if it's at all, but it doesn't affect me on a personal level anymore. I mean, a man who is angry can be intimidating, I think, to everybody. Um, but I don't have the feeling that I should have prevented that, or that I did something wrong, or that it's my fault, and that used to be very much the case. So yeah, a lot has changed in this, and now I just feel very relaxed around men, um, and around women, because I healed a lot in that relationship too, and that balanced out a lot too. Ah, so many interesting insights, aren't there? Please let me know. I am absolutely genuine in that I want to know what this is like for you. Have you ever noticed that you're scared of men in this instance? Of course, we can talk about being scared of women also. I think I have another video about that, really, on my channel. But yeah, have you ever noticed that you're scared of men as a man or as a woman, whether you're attracted to men or women? I think most of these can be pretty universal, but they might differ just a bit, or you might have completely different signs. Please share in the comments. I would love to know, and I would love for us to share our insights, because being aware of this is such a big step towards healing and that is what I want for you. So thank you so much for being here, and I will see you in the next one.
Healed and Happy is a tailor made online program where me and my team personally guide you through healing the roots of a fearful avoidant attachment style.